Spokane is a city in the state of Washington, in the northwestern United States. It is the seat of Spokane County, as well as the center of the Spokane Metropolitan Area. It is located on the Spokane River west of the Rocky Mountain foothills in eastern Washington, 92 miles south of the Canada-US border, approximately 20 miles from the Washington-Idaho border, and 280 miles east of Seattle along Interstate. The city and wider inland northwest region is served by Spokane International Airport, 5 miles west of downtown Spokane. According to the 2010 census, Spokane had a population of 208,916, making it the second largest city in Washington and the 102nd largest city in the United States. The first humans to live in the area, the Spokane people, arrived between 13,000 and 8,000 years ago, living off plentiful game. Known as the birthplace of Father's Day, Spokane is officially nicknamed the Lilac City. David Thompson explored the area with the westward expansion and establishment of the Northwest Company's Spokane House in 1810. This trading post was the first long-term European settlement in Washington. Completion of the Northern Pacific Railway in 1881 brought settlers to the Spokane area, and that same year it was officially incorporated as a city with the name of Spokane Falls. In the late 19th century, gold and silver were discovered in the inland northwest. The local economy depended on mining, timber, and agriculture until the 1980s. Spokane hosted the first environmentally themed World's Fair at Expo 74. Many of the older Romanesque Revival-style buildings in the downtown area were designed by architect Kirtland Kelsey Cutter after the Great Fire of 1889. The city also features riverfront and Manitou parks, the Smithsonian-affiliated Northwest Museum of Arts and Culture, the Davenport Hotel, and the Fox and Bing Crosby Theaters. The Cathedral of Our Lady of Lourdes serves as the seat of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Spokane, and the city is also the center of the Mormon Spokane, Washington Temple District. The Cathedral of St. John the Evangelist represents the Anglican community. Gonzaga University was established in 1887 by the Society of Jesus, and the private Presbyterian Whitworth University opened 3 years later in North Spokane. In sports, the Gonzaga Bulldogs collegiate basketball team competes at the Division I level. Professional and semi-professional sports teams include the Spokane Indians in minor league baseball, Spokane Empire in arena football, and Spokane Chiefs in junior ice hockey. As of 2010, Spokane's only major daily newspaper, the Spokesman Review, had a daily circulation of over 75,000. History. The first humans to live in the Spokane area arrived between 13,000 and 8,000 years ago and were hunter-gatherer societies that lived off plentiful game. The Spokane tribe, after which the city is named, are believed to be either the direct descendants or descendants of people from the Great Plains. When asked by early white explorers, the Spokanes said their ancestors came from up north. Early in the 19th century, the Northwest Fur Company sent 2 white fur trappers west of the Rocky Mountains to search for fur. These were the first white men met by the Spokanes, who believed they were sacred, and set the trappers up in the Colville River Valley for the winter. Trading post. The explorer-geographer David Thompson, working as head of the Northwest Company's Columbia Department, became the first European to explore the Inland Empire, crossing what is now the Canada-US border from British Columbia. Thompson wanted to expand the Northwest Company further south in search of furs. After establishing the Cullis-Pull House and Salish House trading posts in what are now Idaho and Montana, Thompson then attempted to expand further west. He sent out two trappers, Jacques Raphael Finley and Finan MacDonald, to construct a fur trading post on the Spokane River in Washington and trade with the local Indians. This post was established in 1810, at the confluence of the Little Spokane and Spokane Rivers, becoming the first enduring European settlement of significance in Washington state. Known as the Spokane House, or simply Spokane, it was in operation from 1810 to 1826. Operations were run by the British Northwest Company and later the Hudson's Bay Company, and the post was the headquarters of the fur trade between the Rocky and Cascade Mountains for 16 years, after the latter business absorbed the Northwest Company in 1821. The major operations at the Spokane House were eventually shifted north to Fort Colville, reducing the post's significance. In 1836, Reverend Samuel Parker visited the area and reported that around 800 Native Americans were living in Spokane Falls. A medical mission was established by Marcus and Narcissa Whitman to cater for Cayuse Indians and hikers of the Oregon Trail at Walla Walla in the South. After the Whitmans were killed by Indians in 1847, Reverend Cushing Eels established Whitman College in the memory, also setting up the first church in Spokane. In 1853, 2 years after the establishment of the Washington Territory, the first governor, Isaac Stevens, made an initial effort to make a treaty with Chief Garry and the Spokanes at Antoine Planters Ferry, not far from Millwood. After the last campaign of the Yakima Indian War, the Coeur d'Alene War of 1858 was brought to a close by the actions of Col. George Wright, who won decisive victories against a confederation of tribes in engagements at the battles of Four Lakes and Spokane Plains. The cessation of hostilities opened the Intermountain Valley of the Pacific Northwest to safe habitation by settlers. American settlement joined American-British occupation of Oregon Country, in effect since the Treaty of 1818, eventually led to the Oregon boundary dispute after a large influx of American settlers along the Oregon Trail. The first American settlers in what is now Spokane were J.J. Downing and S.R. Scranton, cattle ranchers who squatted and established a claim at Spokane Falls in 1871. Together they built a small sawmill on a claim near the south bank of the falls. James N. Glover and Jasper Matheny, Oregonians passing through the region in 1873, recognized the value of the Spokane River and its falls for the purpose of water power. They realized the investment potential and bought the claims of 160 acres and the sawmill from Downing and Scranton for a total of $4,000. Glover and Matheny knew that the Northern Pacific Railroad Company had received a government charter to build a main line across this northern route. Amid many delays in construction and uncertainty over the completion of the railroad and its exact course, Matheny sold his interest in the claim to Glover. Glover confidently held on to his claim and became a successful Spokane business owner and the city's second mayor. He later came to be known as the Father of Spokane. In 1880, Fort Spokane was established by U.S. Army troops under Lt. Col. Henry Clay Merriam 56 miles northwest of Spokane, at the junction of the Columbia and Spokane Rivers, to protect the construction of the Northern Pacific Railway and secure a place for U.S. settlement. By June 30, 1881, the railway reached the city, bringing major European settlement to the area. The city of Spokane Falls was officially incorporated as a city of about 1,000 residents on November 29, 1881. When Spokane was officially incorporated in 1881, Robert W. Forrest was elected as the first mayor of the city, with a council of 7 S.G. Havemail, A.M. Cannon Drive, L.H. Whitehouse, L.W. Rima F. R. Moore, George A. Davis, and W. C. Gray, all serving without pay. The marketing campaigns of transportation companies with affordable fertile land to sell along the trade routes lured many settlers into the region they dubbed Spokane Country. The 1883 discovery of gold, silver, and lead in the Coeur d'Alene region of northern Idaho lured prospectors. The Inland Empire erupted with numerous mining rushes from 1883 to 1892. Mining and smelting emerged as a major stimulus to Spokane. At the onset of the initial 1883 gold rush in the nearby Coeur d'Alene mining district, Spokane became popular with prospectors, offering low prices on everything from a horse to a frying pan. It would keep this status for subsequent rushes in the region due to its trade center status and accessibility to railroad infrastructure. Spokane's growth continued unabated until August 4, 1889, when a fire, now known as the Great Fire, began just after 6 o'clock p.m. and destroyed the city's downtown commercial district. Due to technical problems with a pump station, there was no water pressure in the city when the fire started. In a desperate bid to starve the fire, firefighters began razing buildings with dynamite. Eventually the winds and the fire died down. 32 blocks of Spokane's downtown core had been destroyed and one person killed. Despite this catastrophe, and in part because of it, Spokane experienced a building boom. The downtown was rebuilt, and the city was reincorporated under the present name of Spokane in 1891. According to historian David H. Stratton, from the late 1890s to about 1912, a great flurry of construction created a modern urban profile of office buildings, banks, department stores, hotels and other commercial institutions, which stretched from the Spokane River to the site of the Northern Pacific Railroad tracks below the South Hill. Yet the rebuilding and development of the city was far from smooth. Between 1889 and 1896 alone, all 6 bridges over the Spokane River were destroyed by floods before the completion. In the 1890s the city was subject to interstate migration by African Americans from Roseland, looking for work after the closure of the area's mines. 2 African American churches, Calvary Baptist and Bethel African Methodist Episcopal, were founded in 1890. Just 3 years after the fire, in 1892, James J. Hill's Great Northern Railway arrived in the chosen site for Hill's Rail Yards, the newly created township of Hilliard. Spokane became an important rail shipping and transportation hub for the Inland Empire, connecting mines in the Silver Valley with agricultural areas around the Palouse region. The city's population ballooned to 19,922 in 1890, and to 36,848 in 1900 with the arrival of additional railroads. By 1910 the population had hit 104,000, and Spokane eclipsed Walla Walla as the commercial center of the Inland Empire. In time the city came to be known as the capital of the Inland Empire and the heart of a vast tributary region. After the arrival of the Northern Pacific, Union Pacific, Great Northern, and Chicago, Milwaukee, Street, Paul and Pacific Railroads, Spokane became one of the most important rail centers in the western U.S. Early 20th century expansion abruptly stopped in the 1910s and was followed by a period of population decline, due in large part to Spokane's slowing economy. Control of regional mines and resources became increasingly dominated by national corporations rather than local people and organizations, diverting capital outside of Spokane and decreasing growth and investment opportunities in the city. During this time of stagnation, unrest was prevalent among the area's unemployed, who became victimized by job shocks, who charged charged a fee for signing up workers in the logging camps. Job sharks and employment agencies were known to cheat itinerant workers, sometimes paying bribes to periodically fire entire work crews, thus generating repetitive fees for themselves. Crime spiked in the 1890s and 1900s, with eruptions of violent activity involving unions such as the Industrial Workers of the World, or WOBOLIS, as they were often known, whose free speech fights had begun to garner national attention. Now, with grievances concerning the unethical practices of the employment agencies, they initiated a free speech fight in September 1908 by purposely breaking a city ordinance on soapboxing. With IWW encouragement, union members from many western states came to Spokane to take part in what had become a publicity stunt. Many Wobblies were incarcerated, including feminist labor leader Elizabeth Gurley Flynn, who published her account in the local Industrial Worker. After mining declined at the turn of the 20th century, agriculture and logging became the primary influences in the Spokane economy. The population explosion and the building of homes, railroads, and mines in northern Idaho and southern British Columbia fueled the industry, although overshadowed in importance by the vast timbered areas on the coastal regions west of the Cascades, and burdened with monopolistic rail freight rates and stiff competition. Spokane became a noted leader in the manufacture of doors, window sashes, blinds, and other planing mill products. Rail freight rates were much higher in Spokane than the rates in coastal seaport cities such as Seattle and Portland, so much so that Minneapolis merchants could ship goods first to Seattle and then back to Spokane for less than shipping directly to Spokane, even though the rail line ran through Spokane on the way to the coast. Local morale was affected for years by the collapse of the Division Street Bridge early in the morning on December 15, 1915, which killed 5 people and injured over 20, but a new bridge was built. The 1920 census showed a net increase of just 35 individuals, which actually indicates that thousands left the city when considering the natural growth rate of a population. Growth in the 1920s and 1930s remained slow but less drastically so, forcing city boosters to market the city as a quiet, comfortable place suitable for raising a family rather than a dynamic community full of opportunity. The Inland Empire was heavily dependent on natural resources and extractive goods produced from mines, forests, and farms, which experienced a fall in demand. The situation improved slightly with the start of World War II as aluminum production commenced in Spokane due to the area's cheap electricity and the increased demand for airplanes. Second half of the 20th century, after decades of stagnation and slow growth, Spokane businessmen formed Spokane Unlimited in the early 1960s, an organization that sought to revitalize downtown Spokane. A recreation park showcasing the Spokane Falls was the preferred option, and after successful negotiation to relocate the railroad facilities on Havamel Island, Spokane hosted the first environmentally themed World's Fair in Expo 74 on May 4, becoming the smallest city at the time to host a World's Fair. This event transformed Spokane's downtown, removing a century of railroad infrastructure and reinventing the urban core. After Expo 74, the fairgrounds became the 100-acre riverfront park. The growth witnessed in the late 1970s and early 1980s was interrupted by another U.S. recession in 1981, in which silver, timber, and farm prices dropped. The period of decline for the city lasted into the 1990s and was also marked by a loss of many steady family wage jobs in the manufacturing sector. Although this was a tough period, Spokane's economy had started to benefit from some measure of economic diversification. Growing companies such as Keytronic and other research, marketing, and assembly plants for technology companies helped lessen Spokane's dependence on natural resources. 21st century. As of 2014, Spokane is still trying to make the transition to a more service-oriented economy in the face of a less prominent manufacturing sector. Developing the city's strength in the medical and health sciences fields has seen some success, resulting in the expansion of the university district with 2 medical school branches. The city faces challenges such as a scarcity of high-paying jobs, pockets of poverty, and areas of high crime. The opening of the River Park Square Mall in 1999 sparked a downtown rebirth that included the building of the Spokane Arena and expansion of the Spokane Convention Center. Other major projects include the building of the Big Easy Concert House and renovation of the historic Montvale Hotel, the Kirtland Cutter-designed Davenport Hotel, the Fox Theater, as well as the completion of the WSU Pharmaceutical and Biomedical Sciences Building in 2013 and the Davenport Grand Hotel in 2015, and the ongoing renovation of Riverfront Park. The Kendall Yards development on the west side of downtown Spokane is one of the largest construction projects in the city's history. Directly across the Spokane River from downtown, it will blend residential and retail space with plazas and walking trails. Geography. Topography. Spokane is located on the Spokane River in eastern Washington at an elevation of 1,843 feet above sea level, about 20 miles from Idaho, 110 miles south of the Canada-US border, 232 miles east of Seattle, and 277 miles southwest of Calgary. The lowest elevation in the city of Spokane is the northernmost point of the Spokane River within city limits at 1,608 feet. The highest elevation is on the northeast side, near the community of Iliad at 2,591 feet. Spokane is part of the Inland Northwest region, consisting of eastern Washington, northern Idaho, northwestern Montana, and northeastern Oregon. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the city has a total area of 60.02 square miles, of which 59.25 square miles is land and 0.77 square miles is water. Spokane lies in the Columbia Plateau ecoregion on the eastern edge of the basaltic channeled Scablands Steppe, a plain that then eventually rises sharply to the east towards the rugged, timbered Rocky Mountain foothills, the Selkirk Mountains. It is in a transition area between the barren landscape of the Columbia Basin and the coniferous forests to the east. To the south of the lush prairies and rolling hills of the Palouse. The highest peak in Spokane County is Mount Spokane, at an elevation of 5,883 feet, located on the eastern side of the Selkirk Mountains. The most prominent water feature in the area is the Spokane River, a 111-mile tributary of the Columbia River, originating from Lake Coeur d'Alene in northern Idaho. The river flows west across the Washington state line through downtown Spokane, meeting Latter Creek, then turns to the northwest, where it is joined by the Little Spokane River on its way to the Columbia River, north of Davenport. The channeled Scablands and many of the area's numerous large lakes, such as Lake Coeur d'Alene and Lake Pend were formed by the Missoula floods after the ice-damped glacial Lake Missoula ruptured at the end of the last ice age. The Turnbull National Wildlife Refuge south of Cheney is the closest natural reserve, and the closest national park is Glacier National Park, approximately a 4-hour drive away from Spokane. Flora and fauna. Spokane is within the Columbia Plateau ecoregion, which supports an abundance of wildlife due to its unique and complex geology and natural history. The area plains were once carpeted with shrubs, forbs, and bunch grass which provided sustenance for the area's herbivores to browse. Forests of ponderosa pine and Douglas fir can be found in the foothills of mountains. The ponderosa pine is the official tree of the city of Spokane, which is where specimens were first scientifically documented and named by botanist David Douglas in 1826. The Columbia Plateau ecoregion supports 82 mammals, 27 reptiles and amphibians, 192 birds, and 73 fish species. Migratory wetland birds and waterfowl traveling along the Pacific Flyway frequent the region due to refuges with water, food and shelter from numerous lakes and grain fields. There is a high concentration of raptors in the ecoregion. Bald eagles are a common sight near Coeur d'Alene in December and January when kokanee spawn. The most common fish present in area lakes is the Washington native rainbow trout, which is the official fish of Washington State. Big game common in eastern Washington include grizzly and black bears, caribou, elk, bighorn sheep, and cougar. Significant populations of white-tailed deer and moose can also be found. The gray wolf population has been making a recovery in the inland northwest. As of June 2016, there are 16 wolf packs in eastern Washington. In August of 2016, photo evidence confirmed a solitary wolf in Mount Spokane State Park. Conservation challenges include the extensive grain and legume farming as well as invasive cheatgrass which have reduced the natural range of the region's native plant species to only 1% as well as the many hydroelectric dams in the Columbia River watershed which negatively impacts the safe passage and habitat of salmon, sturgeon, and lamprey. Climate. Spokane has a humid continental climate, a rare climate due to its elevation and significant winter precipitation. Spokane, however, is adjacent to and sometimes even classified as a warm summer Mediterranean climate because the average temperature for the coldest month is just over 27 degrees Fahrenheit. The area typically has a hot, arid climate during the summer months, bracketed by short spring and fall seasons. On average, July and August are equally warm, and the coolest month is December. July averages 69.5 degrees Fahrenheit, while December averages 27.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Daily temperature ranges are large during the summer, often exceeding 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and small during the winter, with a range just above 10 degrees Fahrenheit. The record high and low are 108 degrees Fahrenheit and minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit, but temperatures of more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit or less than minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit are rare. Temperatures above 90 degrees Fahrenheit occur an average of 19 days annually. Temperatures above 100 degrees Fahrenheit occur an average of only 1 day annually, and those below 0 degrees Fahrenheit average 3.5 days a year. Spokane's location, between the Cascades Range to the west and the Rocky Mountains to the east and north, protects it from weather patterns experienced in other parts of the Pacific Northwest. The Cascade Mountains form a barrier to the eastward flow of moist and relatively mild air from the Pacific Ocean in winter and cool air in summer. As a result of the rain-shadow effect of the Cascades, the Spokane area has 16.5 inches average annual precipitation, less than half of Seattle's 37 inches. The most precipitation occurs in December, and summer is the driest time of the year. The Rockies shield Spokane from some of the winter season's coldest air masses traveling southward across Canada.